Greetings. This is Arvette McLean with Speak, The Universe Listens. New ways to view age-old challenges. Change your thoughts, change your life. Step into the bigness of you.
So something interesting the other day happened at work that made me think. So like where my office is like a panel, but it's like nothing blocking off the waiting room or whatever. So it's in a dental office, so it's like a lobby right there or whatever. So this lady, well, I didn't know. So someone is playing like something loud from their phone.
Right.
So we're all in the office, like, saying judgy remarks and like, why they doing that? And, they need to cut that down, all those kind of things or whatever. And so I go out there and I went out there to use the bathroom. I wasn't initially going to tell the person to cut it down.
Yeah.
So I go out there and I'm going to the bathroom, and then I walk by them and I hear it and I'm like, excuse me, ma'am, could you cut that down a little bit? People are working over here and, whatever. And she looks at me and says, hey, baby, can you show me how to cut it down? And it just had me thinking, like, wow, we did all that judging and all that, and all she needed was help turning it down. She didn't know how to cut it down. So yeah, that just had me thinking, like, I could have went in that situation, like, listen, you need to cut your, instead of leading with love, like going into it, like, okay, just like being open to what's going on instead of like leading with judgment, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, see, because I've been in situations similar to that too, where you frustrated by something, so it's like you just want to like just fix this issue, and then like whole time the person just needs some help. Like you upset about an issue, and the whole time they upset because they can't figure something out. So it's like if everybody coming at it upset, then it ain't gonna never really get to where you want.
I remember I used to do this training, and I had read this book where, anyway, it was like having you change your perspective, like having a paradigm shift. So that's pretty much what the book was about, shifting your paradigms. And I remember one of the stories I got from that book that I used to use in my training program. And so the guy was like, there was this shiny red Corvette. It was just like going, he was just driving through these windy roads. And so as he's driving, somebody comes the other direction and goes, pig! And so he says, cow! And then he runs into a pig.
Oh, wow.
Man, changing okay. Because the person was screaming pig like a pig's in the middle of the road.
Right.
Man, I would have took that like, man, why you calling me a pig?
Yeah, you would have took it person.
No, that makes sense. And I like paradigm shifting too. It had something kind of heavy happen to me last week. So y'all know I do fundraising, and my school that I work at, we like to really push diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, and so my team went out and did like a presentation, which was great. We had a good time. It felt good to be up there speaking, but there was this one gentleman like sitting in a corner, like in the back, and he waited till like the last 2 minutes of the event. And he raises his hand and asks a question. So we're like, yeah, what's up? So he's like, yeah, so, I just think that you guys are just putting too much focus on diversity and not merit. Because, I'm from this background, and where I'm from, all we do is focus on like who can actually do it. It's never about this. It's always about your merit. And so he immediately like continued on his statement or whatever, and he said something like, yeah, you thinking about skin color and sexual choices. And at that point, somebody in the audience got a little upset and was like, well, it's not sexual choices. That's not the right word. And this man here, he said, well, that's the word I'm using, so tough. And I was like, well, okay. So I'm watching everybody else in the room like get very visceral reactions to him or whatever, and I'm like, all right, I'm keeping two things in mind. One, this podcast, and just always trying to inspire people to be authentically happy in themselves. And then two, also I was thinking, I'm the only black person in this room, so I also don't want to flip out or react very adversely, and because unfortunately that could be somebody's viewpoint of a black person, like the minute I do something. So that is something I'm still working on, trying to let go of myself. That's not anybody's expectation but me. But so when I finally when I finally grabbed the mic to talk, I was like, yeah, well, I just think that you should consider all the different points of views or whatever. I tried to say anything to diffuse it, because I understood in that moment he didn't need to be argued with or even need to be agreed with. He didn't even need anybody to agree with his point. He just wanted to get it off. So I just needed to be able to just say, yeah, okay, you got that. So all of that happened, whatever. Luckily the host came up, shut it down, moderator shut it down before anything got hectic. I go to the restroom, and the man is standing there, he traps me in a conversation again. So now here I am having this conversation that I wasn't trying to have, and he's like, yeah, well, you guys did this when the insurrection happened, but you guys didn't do anything about this when federal buildings were being torn down by Black Lives Matter. And I was like, yeah, well, had to remind myself again, because I got a little triggered when he said, yeah, Black Lives Matter did this and Black Lives Matter did that. I was like, okay. Calm myself down, stayed in my strength, stayed in my power, and I said, yeah, well, I just think that we need to consider all different points of views and perspectives, and I believe that, you as a veteran yourself would also want us to treat an act of terrorism like an act of terrorism, and you also value your life the same way I value your life. So while those buildings were being torn down, and that's upsetting, we also shouldn't treat those buildings being torn down like an act of terrorism. He's like, yeah, thank you. I just want to make sure that we're bridging this gap, because I come to all these diversity, equity, inclusion things just to give the other point of view, because I want people to know it's not going to be all peaches and cream. People are going to be mean to you. So, I know I probably won't get any business after this, but I just do it for this. And, I felt good leaving that conversation, because I didn't have to agree with them, but at the same time, I also didn't have to get in a place where I felt upset or I had to argue with them. It was literally like, I hear you. Now, let me just give you a different perspective of it. And maybe you take that and you go with the way you may. So that was my week. It was pretty exciting.
Okay.
So it sounds like to me both of the stories you guys told are examples of that we could pull out the ideal about judgment. And in the whole thing with judgment, we end up shutting down. We close doors when we start judging things or whatever. And so in your situation, Rodney, when I know you guys were saying stuff like, well, how they got the music on loud, etc. But what if you look at it from a place of judgment, what was the judgment that y'all were making? What were y'all thinking from a judgment standpoint? From
a judgment standpoint, it's like, this person don't know how to act in a public setting, those type of things. And this is a doctor's office. You shouldn't be.
Why you got your phone?
Like that.
Yeah.
And so, and then based on judging a situation, you were saying that it was possible that a person could come in and say, turn your music down, because you're in a state of judgment. But even though you didn't approach her like that, you approached her from a kind place. But when she responded back like, oh, hey, baby, like, can you just help me? It just kind of made you melt. Like, man, I'm sitting here judging this woman, and she just don't know how to turn her music down.
That's just somebody grandma.
Because I think, like, when we're approaching people with judgment, we're coming like, you're wrong, this is wrong. So it's like, if I'd approached it with judgment, like, hey, that's wrong for you to, how you're, whatever, that loud, like, we're coming at it like that person is wrong, instead of coming at it like, okay, what's going on? Let me, like that, openly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to be open as possible, like when I'm talking to anybody, because I know everybody has different opinions and different views. So even if I'm talking to somebody and their viewpoint is different from my viewpoint, I may want to sit back deep down. I may want to get my point across. I may want to, but I always try to like be open to what they have to say and where they're coming from, because I might be like, dang, they might tell me something that I can look at and might take in and learn something from them. And I'm like, well, you got a point. You know, I didn't really look at it like that. I had quite a few scenarios like that. My dad, you know, we have two different views, and his viewpoint when it comes to religion is different from mine. But when we're talking to each other and he gives me some advice, right? At one point I did just shut it down. I'm not trying to hear it, but now I'm open to listening to it, and I receive it, because it's like, regardless, at the end of the day, it's still something I can take out of it and learn from it. So I think when we get out of that space of just shutting it down, you know, somebody's viewpoint, you'd be surprised at what you can really, you know, take out of that conversation.
But I wanted to go back to the conversation that Rodney was having with the lady. So the lady indicated that she needed help. But what if the lady had popped off on you?
I don't think I'm not, if she had popped off on me, what would be my reaction?
What would your thinking be?
My thinking would be like, this is exactly what we was judging. This is exactly what we thought. But no, my thinking would be like Teron's thinking in his story. It's kind of just, okay, let me bring it back down. Let me bring some love and light to this situation, because me combating that with what she's doing is not going to help.
Right. And so, but one thing that I didn't hear in Teron's story, and I'm not hearing in your story, is it's kind of like, if it's almost still like the person did something wrong. Like, let's say if the lady popped off on you, then it's like, well, she did something wrong, but I'm gonna come to her with love. Yeah. And your person, he did something wrong, but I'm gonna come to him with love. So with judgment, that is what that is we're saying that somebody else is doing something wrong. Like, we're deciding that they ain't right. Yeah. Something's wrong with what they're doing. And so with that being the case, like, is there another way you could frame it or think about it? Think about the situation with the man, for example.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. Let's see. Let me try and work through it here on the spot. You know, so yeah, because I don't think he was wrong either. I think the two I don't think either had to be mutually exclusive. I think that it could be about diversity and about merit. So I don't think he was wrong at all, nor do I think we were wrong on our presentation. Like, I think his whole thing was just, I want people to earn where they're at. And I'm like, yeah, I can get there too. But, you know, I don't know. I guess because even in this, I'm still... So it's interesting. For me, the wrong isn't in his stance. Working through this on the spot. The wrong for me, the way I was processing, wasn't in his stance. It was him being combative to listening to the other side. Is where I was like, that doesn't feel right. So I guess, how can I change the way of somebody just not hearing the other side? I don't know.
Because just like the story that Rodney told, if the lady had popped off on him, she still could have had the same issues. She still could have just not known how to
Cut the phone.
turn the music down.
Right.
And so, but based on how she respond, would be based on how the majority of us would feel about her.
Yeah.
Right.
You know? And so, like, we talk about leading with love or removing judgment. It's not just about based on how the other person responds. It has nothing to do with the other person. Right. It's all on us. Am I judging you? And is there a way I can not judge you? Can I always lead with love? Can I always assume that you're okay? Everything's okay. This moment is okay. It might not feel good to me right now, but that doesn't mean you're wrong. And the minute we start looking out into the world, saying all those things are wrong, all of that has to move through you first. So when I'm irritated with you, that's moving through my body. So my body is experiencing irritation. My body doesn't know who I'm irritated with. So if for no other reason than self-preservation, like if we can always assume love. So whatever's going on outside, it may not look good, might not feel good to us, but to send that person love, to view the situation with love, and to be in the knowing that everything is right in this moment. And the reason why a person would, I guess, be rude or seem like they're not okay or being it's because they're not aligned with who they are. So our task is to stay aligned with who we are. That's it. That's our task, to stay aligned with who we are, not to judge them for being out of line. Because we all get unaligned sometimes.
Right.
That's true too.
And so the more we can stay aligned, the more the people around us are going to stay aligned as well. So we're not putting ourselves in the position of being the judger. Like, what you're doing is wrong. You might look at it and say, okay, they're out of alignment right now, and so the best thing I can do right now is send them love, not they're wrong.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, so I see exactly what you're saying. I should have sent a little more love instead of having the feeling of, well, let me just try and diffuse it. I didn't even need to diffuse anything. I just literally had to put more in myself, and it would have diffused naturally. And little off subject, but sometimes you often say, like, like everything that happened there, like happened there for a reason, or like that's usually like a saying. Like, I do genuinely feel that way too, because I do, like, now I'm able to step back and I have appreciation for like that whole interaction that I had, and I have appreciation for like that whole room's interaction with it. Actually, it was moving for me to like see so many people like so up in arms about diversity. I was like, oh, okay, like this is a topic that people want to hear about. Like, I was instantly able to like to take the positive from it. Like, so I left the meeting feeling really good. Like, yeah, you did a great thing. Man, I got in the car with teammates. Everybody just heated. I'm like, yeah, that just is what it is. So like, he gonna be who he gonna be. But yeah, for me, it was the most refreshing part was watching all the people's reaction. Like, not that anything he was doing was negative, but it was nice to see so many people like genuinely thinking and moving on this one subject. And I was like, okay, so I felt good leaving the presentation.
I think when we approaching life with judgment, we're for one looking at things like right or wrong.
Yeah.
But who says what you think is right or wrong is right or wrong? So it's like when we lead with judgment, we're coming from our opinion, how we view it. It's like two judges can have the same case and not get the same sentence. So when we're leading with love, I think that changes things for us, because we're not coming from, oh, this is right or wrong. We're coming from, let me just have love in my heart, and I can understand anything. And that can change any situation drastically.
Exactly.
I think I had a client that I work with, and the situation, I was just coming from a space of genuine love. She'd been screwed over before by contractors, so did some work for her, and this particular day I wasn't able to get out there to her, right? So this job took like about a week to get done. So the last day, right, I gave her a call and I said, hey, something came up and I'm not gonna be able to come out there. So she was hot, you know, she was mad. And I understood why she was mad, but I was literally almost finished. So she was like, well, you know what? Don't even worry about it, you know. And she was, I got a whole earful, right? But I was cool, calm, and collected, and I understood what she was saying. And she was calling me all types of names. I mean, she was going in on me. she was going in on me. But I listened to her, and I was like, she's like, well, I'm done here. That's it. So 5-minute pause, probably 2-minute pause, and I was like, okay, ma'am, I understand. You know, if there's anything else I could do for you future-wise, I mean, just let me know. Her whole tone and attitude went from 1,000 to it came on down, because I think that she was waiting for the, you know, the back and forth, the argument. And I'm like, you know, that's not what we're going to do. I mean, I understand. I'm gonna be who I am. I'm gonna send you nothing but love. But the next following day, she calls me back. She apologizes, and she was like, you know, I'm sorry for acting that way. Didn't mean to come off so strong at you. And I was like, ma'am, I get it. I understand. You know, I understand. But that just showed me, like, when you go into certain situations, if you just coming out of a space of love, but yet you're being attacked as to where somebody's trying to get you out your box a little bit. It's easy to get out your box, but if you just stay in the space of love, how your whole situation can change, you know, and that person can gravitate to that love and they be like, dang, you know, they review everything, you know. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, so this was an interesting topic about, so yeah, judgment, leading with love, holding your place, holding your peace, no matter what's going on outside. And like Rodney said, like when you are able to just lead with love in your heart, it seems like the whole situation will end up changing.
I agree.
It was this lady telling the story at work, and she was like, yeah, I can't stand when my mama do that. She, I can be arguing, you know, be upset and arguing with her, and she'll talk to me just like, it's okay. It's hard for me to argue with you if you're not, if somebody's not, you know, engaging in arguing back.
Right.
And yeah, that had me thinking like, yeah, the mom was just, you know, coming from a space of love, like, okay, I'm gonna have love in me while you're upset. You know, and that instantly changes the situation, because like I said, she can't be, if you ain't giving that back all the time, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's interesting. But yeah, I think it's, as long as you keep, like, when we're removing judgment and inserting love, in our perspective, I think it changes things drastically.
I agree there. Thank y'all. I could take a lot from this one.
But yeah, leading with love, man. You become contagious to people, and it's just gonna, you know, people gravitate to it, and they're like, okay. even if they're on the other side of love, they have no choice but to come back to love.
Yeah, so thank y'all for joining us in on that conversation about leading with love. And we look forward to having another conversation soon. Until then, this is Arvette.
This is Steven.
This is right.
Teron.
Bye.